in England, and this is tape 2. We were saying about the German soldiers coming in.
Well organized, well motorized, and they were not short of anything. They had all tin foods with them and all that. In fact, we went to the streets or to the beginning of the town when they came in. We just watched the youngsters and so on. But that behind them, there comes different. There comes the police in their uniforms and Gestapo, SS. This is the monsters. And we were not allowed to go out, curfew, and the gates were closed, obviously, and so-and-so time everybody had to be indoors. And suddenly we heard a lot of shooting and a lot of shooting. And we see a lot of smoke, black, dark smoke rising. We thought maybe in that area there still is probably a brewery. There were several breweries in our town. And also they belonged to Jewish people. Anyway, we thought the brewery caught fire or something like that, but no. The shooting and the killing went on by them, by this special mob, and that was the shul. And we found out next day, and this whole of the area around the shul, many streets, the people, some, they were lucky, but a lot were not lucky. They were shot and burned in the houses, or whole areas around streets. And also around places and other streets, occasionally we found Jewish people. You could tell that beards and older people shot, even outside these areas. And then also they took people not too far away from us where we lived, modern streets, houses, doctors and people. They took them out. You could hear screams and everything like that. Took him to the Christian cemetery and shot him. But all the area around the shul, many streets were wiped and burned. The people didn't let them come out the houses. If they tried, they were shot. In any case, they were shot all anyway. Very few, if they lived, say, close to the there was a castle, and there still is, no doubt, a ruined castle. But in the summer we used to go up there, and it was a nice area, and trees and hilly, and old castle. Some of the people that lived around this particular spot, some managed to go through the fences, or rather through the walls, and few saved themselves in that around that castle and those ruins or whatever. I still got a photo somewhere from it. I think I still got it. But there were very few. Normally they shot them and they were burnt out with the houses or buildings, not just a small little house or something, but usually European buildings. Many tenants in a house, like many streets were wiped with the people and everything like that.
And your home was a little bit further out, so didn't...
Yes. You see, they took out of the synagogue, of the shul, because It was. They did it in many places. First of all, and then the surrounding areas, streets and things. Quite big areas. They burned and burnt the houses, shot the people. And that was. Then for all the time they were there, well, we were not allowed, or Jewish people, there was a curfew. And life became very difficult, very hard, because if people say they had, say, they worked in some places, professionals and so on, they were sacked, of course. And the work that people had dried out because there was not the material, and they didn't care. Until it was, well, life became, and food shortages, and obviously. But then, some time later, they organized. That was a German, but apparently he was a decent fellow. His name was Rosner. He was a cripple. I remember. He organized a tailoring factory, but they worked. It was all repairs and work like army uniforms, whatever, things like that. Anyway, it was a shortage of not only food but even coal. People were not organized like nowadays, gas and all that. I mean, mainly coal, electric, but mostly coal. But in the winter, it wasn't so bad because people just outside town slightly, they dug the ground. And deep, of course. They risked their lives, of course. And there was coal, but not private people. That was people that understood about those things. Usually outside town slightly. The coal wasn't exactly quality then, because there was a big coal mine not far away from our town outskirts, and iron foundries. It was industrial area. But it was coal, and so we went there and we carried the coal over the little sled in sacks, and we paid so and so much for whatever, and that was the coal.
Who was the we? You say we went.
Oh, it's either both of us, my brother usually.
Sam, is that? Yeah.
Even my grandmother. Yeah. And that was the coal we used. Food was obviously very short. But in the beginning, people queued outside the bakeries or the shops, the bakeries, usually, for bread. But that was before the rations came in, the ration books. It was naturally not much, but then the German police came along, people pushing or trying to run or whatever. And they sold so much per person but queuing, you know. And who didn't queue didn't get, of course. But the Poles used to point out to the German police, because we had already the police there, the German police. Those are Jews, you know. And Judah. So they kicked the Jewish people out of the queue, of course. It became very, very hard, and very difficult. Potatoes was a luxury, but in the winter time, when they brought into the town things like potatoes, and we had to go and collect it from the station, where the lines or that, and they were usually frozen. They were of no use. People still got them, bought them. What they did with them, who knows? But if they're frozen, they're soft and watery and sweet, and they can't use those things. It's impossible. It was difficult. It was difficult. Oh, so my father and my sister got into this tailoring factory because he was a tailor. My sister could do some sewing as well, so she got in there. And I got, my brother and I got into this furniture factory. I worked there from about 1940 or something, more or less like that, I reckon, right from the beginnings. First, it was another little factory that I started there. The reason was that we needed money. And my father at that time was, before he started in this factory, was out of work, of course. Like many other people, there wasn't the materials and nobody wanted anything. But anyway, from the small factory then, it was belonging to a Jewish man, I remember his name even. A different street, but then I got into this big factory, and whoever got into this places like that got a blue card. That is employee and working blue card. They took some time. They took notice of that.
How did you get that job?
Well, my brother got in first, actually. I worked in that other little factory, but then they confiscated that little factory and they built up this big factory. And he was there before me, but also we had a neighbor which lived in the same building where we lived. And he was the principal packer there in this factory. He was a professional man, that was his profession before, furniture packing, and he had his own transport. But then, obviously, he started work there, and through my brother and through him, I got in there, because I also worked in that small factory. They used to make windows mainly, doors and windows. And his name was Lefkovich, the owner, but everything was taken, the machines and everything, Shmi Lefkovich. And so I started in this factory, but the only place, I wasn't a cabinet maker, I couldn't work. I had always used tools and handy with things, but I wasn't a cabinet maker. But I had some knowledge from that little factory already, operating some machines and so on. But there was no room for me in the factory, except with the horses. And my brother, he worked with the horses as well before. And then he got into the factory, and I had to go to the horses. So I worked with the horses, and feed them, clean them. Where everybody was still asleep, I had to be in the factory already. Feed them, clean them, dress them, and ready for work.
How did you find that?
I didn't have a brain, I didn't think. I just did the job. And I always liked animals, so I got used to them. Some of them, one of them that I worked with, there were two I used. But he was the packer over me. He was the principal over the stables. There was two more horses, not that I worked with them. That owner had other businesses, metal business or whatever, and those were the two that worked over there. But I attended with the two from the factory. Well, one was a human one, anyway. She was four-legged, but human. Before anybody came to the work, I had to be there first. Oh, him as well, because the principal, he was the person that transport was his business. Not his business, the horses belonged to the factory, belonged to the German. But although one was confiscated from a Jewish man, the other one they bought. But the one was confiscated, talking about horses. The horse was 7 years old, beautiful, beautiful, full of life. Always tried to kick me or bite me, only with laugh. I just gave my hand, never did. I don't know whether that horse understood or not, I don't know. Oh, I used to play, because I was a young boy and I liked animals and always did. I used to bash it or call the name or give it a smack, like, but you knew I'm joking with it. She could sometimes pick her leg up and say, like to say, I'm going to kick you. But she picked it up, like to say, ready to kick. Never did. Never did. Yes, that was not easy. It was hard work. Because I had to go to the station and bring the wood with the two horses. Although boys, which the sister, one of them is here, and but the boy, the brother in Israel, unfortunately, not here. And they were loading the wood from the station, from the train, from the open wagons, onto the platform where I had to work with the horses. And I took it to the factory, or other. It was quite a little distance, summer or winter, and return when it was unloaded and bring more, and so on. But otherwise, I also had to, if it wasn't to unload trains with the wood, all kind of things like that, for the factory, there was a big place which the wood was collected, and rather had to be in a special way put that wood so it dries, and the yard, in the factory yard, there was quite a lot there. I also had to carry furniture if there's to be delivered and things like that. Although there was a lorry there, but not always there, but occasionally whoever it belonged to, I think to the governor from the factory actually. And it carried some furniture sometime, but I also had to do it with the horses when it was delivering, or they had a paint shop in a different area. So, and it was a hill to go up there, and that was very close, or rather almost in the grounds of this place where the people ran to. It was I know the name now in Polish, but can't think of it in English. I just said it before, a few minutes ago. A ruined castle. But there was places there which there were, like in front of it, where there must have been offices or something before. And they've used it as a paint shop. Whether they hide it or, no. Anyway, they did have it And the paint shop was there. They used to make all kind of furniture, but also office furniture and kitchen furniture. And one day in the winter, that platform was loaded with the kitchen furniture. I don't know if you remember or seen European kitchen furniture. Well, it's not today built in, but it is separate pieces, like something, not that color of course, but similar to that sort of thing, you know, a bottom part and a top part. And that was going up there, and people there, painters, usually hand painting and all that. But that was the thing there. But one day in the winter, it was loaded, this platform, and me. It was on the other side of the town, of course. And it was hilly there. Still is, no doubt. That other horse was Lazy Horse, a lazy one. But this other little horse couldn't help it. Alone couldn't do much. It was snow, it was slippery. And suddenly that other one decided not to pull. And the whole thing is beginning to roll back. Me, I'm on my own. I tried to hold the thing, but what could I do? I am already on a hill, and this thing is rolling back quicker and quicker. And the other one couldn't hold it by herself. She tried, but couldn't, of course. And that other one, both of them, reversing back. One couldn't do it. As it comes toward the end, like there was a road, and to the left, there was that hill to go up to this paint shop. And the whole thing is reversing back. I tried to hold it, and it ran over my foot, actually. I was lucky. I suppose, I was out of work for a few weeks, but I had those leather boots, which I bought it from an ex-soldier at the time, and they were thick leather on top, like twice the size of mine, but what I needed it, but to have a thing like that is a rich thing. So maybe that leather saved my foot, but I was out of work for a few weeks because it ran over. I couldn't hold it. And when that thing came reversing, so those two horses were facing the hill, but the platform it's got a steering, like, you know, a European thing. So the horses were facing up the hill, but the platform came down like that. And it overturned. And those two of them were caught hanging in the air. But the next, I had enough courage and strength immediately to release them. Otherwise they would have choked. They would have died, of course. So I saved them. Lots of furniture, this was overturned on the road, broken, and everything like that. But the owner, German, well, he didn't do nothing to me. He could see it's not my fault. I tried my best. And so they came with a lorry, collected the furniture, took it back to the factory, and the platform was broken in the front because the horses were hanging on it like that. But anyway, it was taken back to the factory, and with this other fellow, I had to help him repair it, because the factory had all this wood. He could do it. He knew what to do. But I had to help him. And I was out of work for a few weeks. I will say that much. I was paid as well. Although I was out, I limped. I couldn't walk. Lucky I didn't break my bone and all that. And when I was better, I went back to work again with the same horses. But comes in the winter time, it was very cold, and I ran away. Where did I run? Not far, into the factory, found a job with a group of candy makers. I remember his name first.
When did you stop working at the furniture factory?
when I was taken to the camp. Abram First, his name. He's alive in America. I didn't see him after that. I wasn't there. I didn't go to see him, but I heard he's alive. He's in America. Whether he's still alive now, I don't know. He was older than me. But he took me on and I worked. Whatever job he used to give me, I could do things. And I worked with the machines or by the machines because every group had the sort of furniture which they were good at to produce. And I got in with him. Nice fellow he was with his brother, younger brother. He was a nice fellow. I operated machines. Well, he showed me what to do and all that. And the machine shop was downstairs. Huge cabinet making machines, all kind of planes and drills and God knows all kind of machines like that. And some dangerous machines. They used to call it Abricht. And some people, I've seen people losing their fingers. The spindle in the wood they had to go through like that. And sometimes they slip. I've seen this happen. Anyway, and there I got actually in the factory there. We had to carry out the plane from the plane machines and all the rubbish like the things. And that time I got a rupture from carrying heavy things, got a rupture. Anyway, it didn't take long, and the German called me down, sent somebody out, called me down from the factory. You must go back to the horses. So I went back to the horses. I ran up there because it was so cold. We didn't have the best clothes. And it's so cold that if somebody touch a piece of metal, the hand sticks to it in the winter time. It is cold. So that's why I ran up there to the factory. But it didn't last long before he called me. Anyway, I had to go back to the horses, and I worked with the horses till I was with a rupture, because there was no hospitals for us. There was one hospital nearby the town, in Sosnowiec, next town, the Jewish hospital. But they liquidated it. They took all the ill people. I remember there was a man there which we knew. He's in the beginning. He was a family man, and his son is in America.